Hi there, fellow fantasy sport players. This is the Brandon Cruz Daily Fantasy Podcast. Going to be a short one here. Two major things. One, obviously we have qualifying and everything, so my thing that I put up on the screen, this little thing here, not going to be fully complete or not being read the way that we normally do it with qualifying positions. Two, going to be going to live tomorrow on my channel once again with Pierce, aka Race for the Prize. He's going to be joining me a bit later because he has some things to do. I'm probably going to start streaming around with 5, maybe 8 trucks left in truck qualifying, and then I'll probably be on for like an hour, 15, hour and a half. I'm doing that for 2 reasons. One, because I want to do a live show about the truck series because nobody really does it. And 2, it gives me time to, if you're on my Patreon, it gives me time to talk to you through or kind of talk about what I'm doing. And then you also know that, hey, I'm going to get you something. I should have my PDF file uploaded to Patreon. If you're a part of my Patreon, it should be up, 15, 20 minutes right after qualifying because I have to put everything in, make my own projections as I'm live streaming, but it'll be up there, so don't worry. But tomorrow, whenever it gets down to the end of truck qualifying, 10, 8, 5 cars, check out my channel for that. And let's get right into it. Quick little intro here, as I normally always do. You're watching the Brandon Cruz Daily Fantasy Podcast, where I go and look at long plays and strategies specifically designed for GPPs. This is a show for people who are already informed on daily fantasy sports, not this contest to operate. If you have any questions related to NASCAR, it isn't a stupid question, feel free to shoot my way. BrandonCruzDFS on Twitter. Most importantly, take everything here with a grain of salt and use your best judgment when making entries. Additionally, if you have a gambling addiction, that's just not my problem. Check your sense of feelings at the door. Okay, so focusing on the Truck Series race here. Usually what we look at in the Truck Series race is sponsorship, how fast people are, and with the one practice, and also I think we're going to have qualifying rained out. So that just throws another little incident here. I think we're going to have a lot of this weekend washed out. I've been saying that since, I think, Monday or Tuesday. Didn't really hear a whole lot of rumbling about it, but everybody's kind of figuring out that we got a lot of rain coming towards Daytona. And we're going to have to see how that goes. But however this truck series, however they grid the field and everything, we're going to have a lot of good cars that could win. And I don't mean in the sense of Mike Joy being like, if you're at Daytona, you can win a race. I literally mean we got a lot of money into this series this year. A lot of guys coming out of the woodwork, a lot of sponsors being thrown on top of cars. So keep that in mind. So, like I said, sponsorship, that's normally what you worry about in the Truck Series. Everybody is sponsored for this weekend. The only person who's not sponsored is Gus Dean for Hill Motorsports, Timmy Hill's 56 car, Tyler Hill's 56 car, whatever you want to look at it or call it. Gus Dean, he should have a sponsor on his car. I don't know if you can see that. He has a white car or a white truck. He should get a sponsorship. Normally, Hill Motorsports are usually able to add a sponsor within a day of the race, especially if everybody sees that they're the only car that's not sponsored and how well they usually run. I'm assuming he's going to get a sponsor. The only thing about that is Gus Dean tends to wreck a lot on the plate track, so we'll see how it goes. But Spencer Davis is going to run the full season. So sponsor for this race, Timothy Peters, obviously sponsored, who has been very good at the plate tracks back when he used to race Joe Nemechek, fully sponsored. Chris White, fully sponsored. Cody Roper, good to go. Good money behind this car, actually. Cody Roball, good to go. I think we're going to see a lot of chalk out of him because he's usually pretty chalky at the plate tracks. It's like everybody who plays guys from the back, it just ends up going to him. Dawson Cram, fully sponsored. Todd Peck, fully sponsored. Jason White, Jennifer Jo Cobb, Norm Benning, sponsored and running the full season, or plans to. Brian Desant, still sponsored by NYPD, but, still sponsored. Ray Cicerelli, he's the only guy other than Gus Dean who doesn't have a sponsor. It's just his team on the side of that car. Jesse Iwuji, sponsored as well. Now, tackling how I'm going to be making lineups for this. If you are ignorant to how I make lineups, if you are ignorant to how I approach the plate tracks shortly, the short answer is I embrace chaos. I just assume these scatterbrain drivers just decide to wreck the entire field every time, and we have seen that in the Truck Series before. Now, depending on when they decide to wreck the field, how they wreck the field, or if they don't decide to wreck the field, that determines if my lineups cash or not. But I will embrace chaos. I will embrace these guys wrecking, especially in situations to where it's not like in past situations where some of these slower cars are not really sponsored. They're with a team, but they're just, trying to make it through the race. All these guys have money backing them. So I expect this field to actually race from first to last. So going on that side. And it could happen like we did in the fall Talladega race, to where all my back markers, all the guys that have a shitload of ownership to, decide to wreck in like turn 2 or turn 3 on the first or second lap. They wreck each other out. We don't have a good race. It could turn into that. I'm going to hope it doesn't. And I'm going to build lineups primarily, and not necessarily this isn't my only player pool, and obviously it's going to be determined by qualifying of who I'm more heavy on, but it's these people that I'm really interested in: the Chris Wrights, Cody Ropers, Fogelman, Todd Peck, Jason White, Norm Benning, Brad Desat, Ray Cicerelli, Jesse Iwuji. No matter how much I hate playing Jesse Iwuji, I'm playing the bad drivers here. I'm playing guys that don't gain a lot of ownership, don't gain a lot of attention from the casual players, and the vast majority of players in DFS space. I'm going to be leveraging a lot of ownerships to stacking from the back, having guys that start from, halfway through the back of the field, or, from halfway to the back of the field. That's how I'm going to do it. Now, that's not the only way I'm going to do it. I'm going to play guys from the front half of the field with those guys. And if you want to go into detail about how I make lineups, I have a video on my channel called How I Make Lineups for the Daytona 500. It's going to be very similar to this. You can check that out if you don't understand how I approach it. Now, it gets interesting because I think we're going to have qualifying get washed out. As much as I don't want that, I think we are going to have qualifying get washed out. So we're going to defer to owner points. That's going to have a lot of these drivers starting in the back to begin with. I'd much rather have them get there by qualifying, but that might be the situation we're in. Another thing is, depending on qualifying, I'm going to bring this over. This is the final practice notes. And look, I know it's practice lap data. I understand. Also, if you want to go into more, if you want to see more data, if you want a place to research, go to racefortheprize.com. He has everything there. But I'm bringing this up just for the sake of you being able to see it, very quickly here, without going into the sheet or anything. I want to focus on the back 30 drivers specifically, because in the practice, also I guess I need to go over the practice notes because I've recorded this twice. These are some of the notes I took from practice. I'm just going to say these through so you know what I saw in practice. And if this is a bad video, look, I'm trying to get it out in between the two dual races, which it looks like we're going to be a while for duel number 2. And I want to get this out so people can listen to it in a very short period of time. We're at 7 minutes. I'm trying to be under 10. Some of the notes I took, GMS was focusing on 4-car draft. Sheldon Creed actually wasn't involved a whole lot. That's why you see Sheldon Creed right here, 25th fastest, why a lot of his GMS drivers are much faster. Sheldon Creed was just doing single-car runs or trying to stay out of drafts, weirdly enough. David Gilliland Racing, Haley Deegan, Tanner Gray, they were test drafting. They were together at the start of the race. They got into some drafts later after a few red flags came out. Not red flags, but incidents came out in practice where they had to bring everybody off the track and on the pit road. Nice Motorsports drafted together. They look like a fast stable here. Brian Desat was on track with the Nice Motorsports car, so he was at least, racing, kind of up to speed. He wasn't just useless. The one thing I hated last year is they didn't have practice, so I couldn't see how bad some of these Truck Series teams were. I can at least tell you that the 28 is not the worst truck here this week. Ray Cicerelli, bottoming out bad. Splitter was hitting the front, or the front splitter was hitting the track a lot. Sparks were flying off of this car. He was having a horrible time. He said it was way too tight. It wanted to head to the wall every single time he got into the corner. Ray, I'm quoting Ray here, the truck is unstable. So Ray Cicerelli needs to get that fixed, otherwise he is not going to have a good time. Jordan Anderson stalled on pit road about halfway through. He got back on track later, but he ended up bringing out a yellow in practice, so that brought everybody down onto pit lane. So following that incident, a lot of the good teams, and obviously I'm generalizing here, but a lot of the strong teams were smart and got draft practice here. Nice Motorsports, GMS, ThorSport. We saw Stuart Friesen here, despite the fact that Stuart Friesen thought he was down a cylinder earlier. He got that fixed, but we saw a lot of these good teams, a lot of the guys that you would expect to be up in the front tomorrow they got a lot of draft practice in this session because of that yellow that came out. So a lot of the good teams should have a setup that's at least comfortable to drive. I don't see them really making a whole lot of mistakes. They're going to wreck anyway, but they're at least more prepared than what we saw last year. So we should see them race a lot harder in this race than I think they were last year. That's why I'm aiming for more wrecks happening. So please, God, let's have wrecks. Let's root for wrecks. Everybody said the Clash race was awesome, and I think if you thought that Clash race was awesome, you like nothing but wrecks and chaos, because that was not racing, but at least admit it, people. If you like wrecking, just admit it. It's okay. You don't have to hide behind, oh, the Clash was a good race. It wasn't a good race. It was just a good race because none of these drivers knew what they were doing, and they kept driving through the grass at the bus stop. But I digress. Spencer Boyd reported smoke in the cockpit. He thought it was an electrical issue. They really didn't even answer this in the practice on Fox. They talked about it, never came back. I got to check in with that tomorrow and see. Clay Greenfield couldn't get the car started earlier in the race. He got back out there, didn't do a whole lot of laps. As you see him, he only did, 2 laps? Yeah, he only did 2 laps. He did this at the very end of practice. So the slowest car out there, way off the pace. I mean, 4 miles per hour off the pace. These guys, most of these teams, especially down here, I mean, it's not that they were in a pack, but these aren't the fastest cars. And when you see 171, that's not qualifying speed. That's not single car speed. You know, they go 190 in the pack. So you admit, or you expect that they're going to be doing about 179, 178, maybe 177, 176 by themselves. So that's why I would say, you know, most of these times right here are more single car runs. You know, Clay Greenfield being this off the pace is bad. Ray Cicerelli being that off the pace because his setup is bad is just horrible. So I just wanted to bring that up. Going back to this. So, tune in to the live stream. That's when we can actually talk about the starting positions and everything. But I'm telling you, I'm going to be playing these no-name guys, the people or the drivers that the public is scared to play. People that, I mean, let's be honest. Do you guys know who Todd Peck is? I do. Because, you know, I did research and stuff. It doesn't matter how much research I do if his ownership's going to be like, 7% because everybody's scared to play the back markers. If most people play guys from the back, it's still, they play names that they recognize. So that's going to be Corey Roper, Cody Roball, Gus Dean, Danny Bone, Drew Dollar is probably the best driver in ARCA right now, or last year, and he's in here. I don't think he'll draw as much ownership as he should. Haley Deegan should be highly owned because everybody knows who Haley Deegan is. I think she's going to do well, but we just got to see. I'm going to be heavy on Joe Nemechek, people like James Busher, people like Parker Kligerman, people like Timothy Peters, David Gilliland. And this ranking here, this is just to help me make this video. I mean, a lot of the A's and B's stand out. The D's are actually bad plays. I don't believe in Jordan Anderson. I think Gus Dean's going to wreck. Austin Wayne Self sucks. Roper, while I'm going to throw him a lot of lineups, I don't have a high expectation for him. Right now, I just assume he's going to start in the back and offer a lot of place differential. Dawson Cram should wreck because he's pretty bad. He actually caused that wreck at Talladega that wiped out the back half of the field. Clay Greenfield, I never really feel comfortable playing him. And then, people like this, Jennifer Jo Cobb, Norm Benning. Norm Benning is an awesome play. This is really his first full season funded. In forever. Like, he hasn't even been funded in years. And he has a full sponsor for this race. That's crazy. He should ride in the back and miss everything. If you want to talk about a guy who rides in the back, who's smart about it, Norm Benning's your guy. I just pray to God he doesn't have a mechanical issue because I'm going to be way over the field on Norm Benning. But this is kind of a little preview here, really just talking about this. We need starting position to really break down this and, tune into the live stream tomorrow. Go into more detail. Until then, I'll talk to you later. Good luck. Hopefully we can get this duel number 2 underway. We'll talk to you later.